The nursery was silent except for a soft humming sound. A pale blue light flickered from the ceiling. The room was built of smooth metal walls, cold and still, but one corner felt alive, the corner where Lira sat beside an empty cradle. Her skin shimmered in soft shades of green and silver, like moonlight on water. She was Vareen, a species known for their calm eyes and gentle hearts. But her eyes now were red and tired, her voice trembling as she sang. The song was one her mother used to sing to her. Now she sang it for someone who wasn't there anymore. The cradle was small, shaped like a pod, covered in soft fabric woven from glow threads. It used to hold her baby, her little star, her daughter, Mayela. But now it was empty. Every night, Lira came here to sing the same song. Even after the war ended, even after her people told her to move on, even after they said the humans had taken everything, the war had been cruel. The humans came from the sky with fire and noise, saying they wanted peace but bringing only destruction. The Vareen fought back, but their cities fell one by one. Lira's colony was destroyed in a single night. That was when she lost Mayela, when the human bombs fell and her world broke apart. But the song stayed. It was all she had left. Lira's voice was soft but filled with sorrow. She sang slowly, her words echoing through the empty metal halls. The air carried the sound in gentle waves wrapping around the cradle like invisible arms. And then she froze. For a moment she thought she heard something. A faint sound, like a breath, a whisper, or maybe a baby's cry. Her hands shook. She looked around quickly. The room was empty. Nothing moved. Only the quiet hum of the air filters. Still, her heart began to race. She leaned closer to the cradle. "Mayela?" she whispered, her voice cracking. Silence. Then again, a faint sound, like the tiniest hum. It came through the intercom on the wall. Lira's heart pounded harder. She turned the dial. The static hissed and popped, but she could almost hear something, a small, broken tune that sounded like her own lullaby. Her voice trembled. "Who's there?" The intercom buzzed once, then went quiet. She sat back down, breathing fast. Maybe she was losing her mind. People already said that. The elders whispered that she was broken, that grief had made her imagine things, but what if it wasn't her imagination? What if her child's spirit was still here listening to her songs? That night Lira couldn't sleep. She stayed beside the cradle, her tail wrapped tightly around her legs, her eyes wide open. She waited for another sound. Hours passed. Nothing. Only the hum of machinery and the slow beating of her heart. Then, as the twin moons rose outside the cracked window, she saw it. A shadow. Someone was standing in the doorway. Lira's blood turned cold. The shape was tall, wide-shouldered, wrapped in a long coat. It was not Vareen. The head shape was wrong. The skin color was pale, not silver or green. A human. Her pulse exploded with fear and rage. She leapt up, grabbing a shard of broken glass from the floor. Her voice was low and angry. "You should not be here." The figure didn't move. The dim blue light touched his face. His eyes looked tired, not cruel, not violent, just tired. In his arms he was holding something. Lira's eyes narrowed. "What is that?" He stepped closer carefully. "Please," he said softly, "don't be afraid." The voice was calm, deep, human but gentle. He lifted what he held, a small bundle wrapped in cloth. The cloth glowed faintly like it was woven with Vareen light threads. Lira's heart stopped. That glow, she knew it, the human spoke again. "Lira, your daughter is alive." The shard of glass slipped from her hand and fell to the floor with a sharp sound. She stared at him, frozen, her breath gone. The world around her blurred. Her mind screamed that it was a lie. Humans killed her people. Humans burned her home. Humans couldn't bring life back. But her eyes locked on the bundle. She saw a tiny arm move, a small glowing hand, the same color as Mayela's. Her knees weakened. "No, it can't be." The man's voice shook now, heavy with emotion. "I took her from the lab. They were going to use her for tests. I couldn't let them. I had to bring her back." Lira couldn't speak. She wanted to scream, to run, to cry. Her heart hurt so much that it felt like fire. The human stepped closer, slowly. "She's safe now," he said. "She kept calling for you. She sang your song." Lira's throat tightened. She heard it again, the soft, broken hum. The lullaby. But this time it wasn't from the intercom. It came from the tiny mouth of the baby in the man's arms. Tears filled Lyra's eyes as she fell to her knees, her hands trembling. The cradle behind her seemed to glow faintly, like it was welcoming back its child. The human whispered one more time, "She's been waiting for you." The nursery filled with the sound of a mother's sobs and a baby's soft song, a melody that would change everything. Lyra could not move. Her body was frozen, her eyes locked on the small bundle in the human's arms. The child inside made a soft, peaceful sound, a sound that broke the silence of years. The human stood still, his breathing heavy, his clothes torn and stained with dirt and blood. His face was young, but his eyes looked old. He had seen too much. The metal badge on his chest was half broken, but one word still showed: Ryan. Lyra's heart beat fast with confusion and anger. Humans had destroyed her world. They had taken her child, her peace, her songs, and now one stood here in her home, holding her daughter like it was nothing. Her voice came out sharp. "Give her to me!" Ryan didn't move. He kept his eyes on her, steady and calm. "Please, let me explain first," she hissed, her sharp teeth showing. "Explain? Your people killed thousands. You burned our cities. You stole our children." Her words hit him like stones, but he did not turn away. "I know," he said softly. "I was there. I saw what they did. That's why I came." Lyra stepped closer, her hand shaking as she pointed at the baby. "If this is some kind of trick, I will end you." Ryan nodded slowly. "You have every right to hate me, but I didn't come to hurt you." He lowered his head for a moment, then looked back at her. "I came to give her back." He took one careful step forward. The baby stirred, making a tiny sound that filled the cold air with warmth. Lyra's heart trembled. The sound was familiar, soft and sweet, the same little hum her daughter made when she was first born. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. How is she alive?" Ryan's voice broke a little. "When the city fell, human soldiers found her in the ruins. They didn't know she was still breathing. The command wanted her for study." His jaw tightened. "I couldn't let that happen. I took her. I ran." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. She looked at the baby again. The tiny hands glowed faintly, just like her own when she sang. Her mind said no, but her heart said yes. She stepped closer, slowly, carefully, afraid that this dream might vanish. "She remembers me?" Ryan nodded. "She does. Every night she would hum the same song, the one you sang just now, the same melody. I didn't even know what it meant until I found your name." Lyra's chest ached. "You found my name?" "I searched old records," Ryan said. "Before the war, your people shared music with us, songs of peace. I heard your voice once in a recording. When she started singing that same song, I knew who she belonged to." For a moment, the two stood in silence, a mother and a soldier, a song and a secret. Then outside, a loud rumble shook the ground. The walls trembled slightly. Ryan turned his head quickly. His calm face changed to worry. "They followed me," he said quietly. Lyra frowned. "Who?" "The ones I stole her from. The Human Science Division. They tracked my shuttle when I entered orbit." He looked at her desperately. "They can't find her. If they do, they'll take her again." Lyra's claws flexed. "Then we'll hide her." "I will protect her," Ryan smiled sadly. "You can't do it alone." Lyra's eyes hardened. "I don't need your help," he didn't argue. He looked down at the baby instead. The child yawned softly, her small glowing eyes opening for the first time. Lyra gasped. The same silver eyes she once saw in the cradle. The air between them softened. For a second, Lyra forgot the war, the pain, the hate. She saw only her daughter's face. Tears fell down her cheeks as she reached out her trembling hands. Ryan hesitated, then gently placed the baby in her arms. The moment their skin touched, a faint light spread from the baby's hands. It flowed into Lyra's chest like warm fire. Her broken heart seemed to heal in that instant. Lyra whispered, her voice trembling, "Maela." The baby looked at her and made a small sound, almost like she said mama. Lyra pressed her forehead to the baby's. "I thought I lost you." Ryan stepped back quietly, watching the reunion with a heavy heart. He had risked everything, his rank, his life, to bring this moment to her, but there was no time to rest. The ground shook again, louder this time. From outside, the sound of engines filled the air, human drones circling above the ruins. Ryan's hand went to his weapon. "They're here," he said. We have to move. Lira looked up sharply, clutching her baby close. If they find us, they won't, Ryan said, meeting her eyes. I'll get you both out. Lira hesitated. She didn't trust him. She couldn't. But when she looked at the baby, her baby, when she knew she had no choice. The lights flickered again. Shadows moved across the window. Ryan reached out his hand. Please, come with me. Lira stared at the hand for a long moment. Then, holding her daughter tight, she took it. The two of them, a grieving mother and a human soldier, ran into the dark tunnels beneath the nursery as the night sky above filled with the hum of hunting machines. The tunnels beneath the nursery were cold and damp. Water dripped from broken pipes, and the echo of their footsteps chased them through the darkness. Lira carried her daughter close, wrapping her in soft cloth to keep her warm. The baby slept quietly, glowing faintly in the shadows. Behind her, Ryan walked carefully, holding a small torch that flickered with pale light. His eyes scanned every corner, every sound. He had been running for days, but this was different. Now he wasn't running for himself. He was running for them. After what felt like hours, they reached an old chamber deep underground. The walls were cracked, the air heavy with dust and memory. There were carvings on the stone, ancient Vareen symbols that spoke of stars, unity, and peace. Lira stopped, staring at the carvings. This place, she whispered, was a sanctuary long ago. Before the war. Ryan nodded slowly. Then it's the safest place we can rest for now. They settled down on the stone floor. Lira laid her daughter beside her, still humming the old song. The sound filled the room with calm. For the first time since the human invasion, she felt something close to peace. But peace didn't last long. Lira turned to Ryan, her eyes sharp again. Now tell me everything, she said. No lies, no tricks. How did you find her? Why did you save her? Ryan took a slow breath. His hands trembled slightly as he set the torch on the ground. The light painted tired lines on his face. You deserve to know, he said. All of it. He looked at the glowing child for a moment, then back at Lira. When your city fell, I was stationed nearby. I wasn't a soldier then, I was a medic. I helped treat the wounded human and, sometimes Vareen, his eyes softened. I saw things no one should see. Lira's expression didn't change. And yet you served them. You helped those who destroyed us. Ryan lowered his head. I did at first. I thought I was helping humanity survive. I believed what they told us, that your kind wanted to wipe us out. He paused. But when I saw the camps, the experiments, I realized who the monsters really were. Lira's tail flicked angrily. Experiments? He nodded slowly. Your daughter was taken to a facility orbiting Alpha 9. The science division said she was special. Her blood glowed. Her heartbeat created strange energy waves. They wanted to use her to build weapons. Lira gasped, her claws scraping the floor. They used my baby? Ryan's voice broke. They were going to. I couldn't let them. I took her and ran. I didn't even know if she would survive the escape. He swallowed hard, but she did. She's stronger than any of us. Lira stared at him in disbelief. Part of her wanted to strike him, to scream at him for what his kind had done. But another part saw the pain in his face. It wasn't fake. He carried guilt like a heavy chain. She looked at the child again. She remembers me, she whispered softly. Through the song, Ryan nodded. She hummed that song every time she woke. I didn't understand it at first, but I recorded her voice and searched through the old peace archives. That's where I found your name, Lira of the Silver Choir. You once sang at the treaty between humans and Vareen. The memory stung like fire. That treaty failed, she said bitterly. Humans broke it. They brought fire instead of peace. Ryan's eyes met hers. Not all of us wanted war. Silence filled the chamber again. Only the baby's soft breathing broke it. Lira finally spoke. Why risk your life for her? You could have left her there. Ryan hesitated, then said quietly, because she smiled at me. Lira blinked. What? The first time I held her, she smiled, he said, his voice shaking. In the middle of that cold, empty lab, she looked at me like I wasn't the enemy. I didn't deserve that kind of mercy, but she gave it. For a long time, neither spoke. The light flickered. The sound of distant machines above them echoed faintly. Finally, Lira whispered, Maybe the stars sent you. Ryan looked up. The stars? It's an old belief, she said softly. When a Vareen child is born under the twin moons, their destiny is guided by the stars. Maybe they chose you to bring her back. He gave a small, tired smile. If that's true, then I'm grateful. But we're not safe yet. Before Lira could answer, the baby stirred. Her eyes opened, glowing brighter than before. 2 tiny orbs of silver light. The carvings on the walls began to shimmer faintly, responding to her presence. Ryan stood quickly. What's happening? Lyra's voice was full of awe. She's connecting. The walls at their ancient tech powered by sound and emotion. She's awakening them. The air filled with a low hum like the echo of a song long forgotten. Symbols lit up, revealing maps, stars, and images of both humans and Vareen standing side by side. Ryan stared in silence. She's showing us something. Lira nodded slowly, holding her daughter close as the light reflected in her eyes. She's showing us the truth, that our worlds were meant to be one. Ryan's breath caught. Then maybe she can heal what we broke. But before they could say more, the tunnel shook violently. Dust fell from the ceiling. A sharp sound echoed, the metallic whine of scanners. Ryan's face went pale. They've found us, Lira clutched her child protectively. Then we fight, she said, her voice steady. Ryan drew his weapon, eyes fierce now. No, he said, we protect her. Whatever it takes. The light around the baby grew stronger, wrapping them both in a soft silver glow. The calm before another storm. The tunnel roared with distant explosions. Dust rained from the cracked ceiling, and the dim blue carvings flickered like dying stars. Ryan grabbed his gear and turned toward the sound of the approaching drones. Their metallic hum grew louder with every passing second, a hunter's song of machines. Move, he shouted. Lira clutched her daughter close to her chest. The baby's silver glow pulsed faster, reacting to the danger around them. The walls of the ancient chamber shimmered as if warning them, echoing the baby's light with faint ripples. They ran through the narrow corridors, their footsteps splashing in the shallow water that covered the ground. Behind them, sharp beams of light cut through the dark, drones scanning every shadow. Ryan fired once at the ceiling. Rocks fell, blocking the path behind them. That'll slow them, he muttered, panting hard. Lyra's eyes flashed. You brought them here, she hissed, her voice full of fury and fear. Ryan didn't look back. I didn't mean to. They must have tracked my signal from orbit. I thought I disabled it. You thought wrong, human, she snapped. He glanced back for just a moment. If I hadn't come, your daughter would still be in a cage. Lira wanted to argue, but his words hit deep. She swallowed her anger and focused on running. The baby stirred slightly, her tiny hand glowing brighter each time the drone's light came closer. They reached a broken gate leading into the lower ruins, an old part of the colony long buried beneath the sand. Rusted machines lined the walls, relics of another age when humans and Vareen had once worked side by side. Ryan stopped and looked around. We can hide here. These tunnels are thick. They'll block the drone's scanners. Lira followed cautiously, watching him with suspicion. She didn't trust him, not fully, but she could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the same kind of exhaustion that came from carrying guilt too heavy to bear. Inside the ruins, the air smelled of metal and old dust. Broken screens still flickered faintly with blue static. Lira placed her daughter on a piece of soft cloth and knelt beside her. The baby's glow dimmed a little, her breathing calm again. Ryan leaned against a wall, wincing in pain. Blood trickled from a wound on his side, a deep cut he'd been hiding since the escape. You're hurt, Lira said flatly. It's nothing, he replied through gritted teeth. She frowned. You're bleeding. Humans are weak creatures. You'll die if I don't help. He tried to laugh but winced instead. I thought you wanted me dead. Lira looked at her child, then back at him. Not yet. She tore a strip from her sleeve and wrapped it tightly around his wound. Her touch was careful but firm. Hold still. Ryan looked at her silently. You're helping me? I don't know why, she said softly. Maybe because my daughter trusts you. He smiled faintly. That's enough for me. The tension between them softened slightly. For the first time, they sat quietly together. Two broken souls on opposite sides of a war neither of them wanted. Ryan looked at the glowing baby again. She's not just any child, is she? Lira shook her head slowly. No. My people believe in a prophecy and about a child born under the twin moons. A child whose voice could unite the divided races. We called it the voice of the stars. Ryan's eyes widened. That's what the scientists said. They believed her song carried energy waves that could influence minds, calm fear, erase anger. They wanted to weaponize it. Lyra's hands clenched into fists. Monsters, she whispered. To take something pure and turn it into war. Ryan's voice was low. That's why I had to take her. She's not a weapon. She's hope. Lira looked at him for a long time. In his eyes, she didn't see the cold cruelty of a soldier. She saw pain in something else. Something human. Then, suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the ruins. The metal doors at the far end began to bend inward. Drones were breaking through. Ryan stood up quickly, drawing his weapon. They found us. Lira lifted her daughter. There's a tunnel beyond the reactor room, she said. It leads to the outer cliffs. Go, Ryan ordered. I'll hold them off. Lira turned sharply. No, you'll die. He gave her a tired smile. If it means saving her, it's worth it. Before she could protest, he moved toward the door, readying his last grenade. Lyra's heart pounded. She wanted to leave, to protect her child, but she couldn't abandon him. Not after all he had done. Ryan, she called. He turned, surprised, and just as she extended her glowing hand toward him, a soft wave of silver light spread from her palm, wrapping around his wound. The bleeding stopped instantly. Ryan looked down in shock. What did you— Vareen healing, she said. Now you fight beside me, he grinned weakly. You're full of surprises. They stood side by side as the door burst open and drones poured in, firing streaks of red light through the dark. Lira covered the baby with her cloak and sang softly. The same lullaby, but this time it was not sorrowful. It was power. The song rippled through the air. The drones faltered, their sensors flickering. The baby's glow matched her mother's rhythm, and the machines began to fall one by one, their systems overwhelmed by the melody. Ryan watched in awe as the sound filled the tunnels, shaking the ground with its beauty. When the last drone fell silent, Lira stopped singing. The baby slept peacefully again. Ryan exhaled slowly, still stunned. Your song? It saved us, Lira smiled faintly. It's not my song, she whispered. It's hers. Ryan looked at the child with wonder. Then we have to keep her safe. The whole galaxy will come for her once they learn what she can do. Lira nodded, her eyes shining. Then let them come. Outside, the first light of dawn touched the ruins. 2 survivors and a child of stars standing in the glow of a new beginning. The morning sun rose weakly over the ruins, casting long shadows across the sand. The battle was over for now. Burned drones lay scattered like metal skeletons around the entrance of the old tunnels. Smoke curled into the air, painting the sky gray. Lira sat near a broken pillar, her baby wrapped safely in a blanket of soft fabric. The glow from the child had faded back to a calm shimmer, gentle and warm. She looked peaceful, almost unaware of the danger that still lingered. Ryan stood a few meters away, keeping watch. His weapon hung by his side, but his eyes were restless. He hadn't slept in days. The silence between them was heavy, filled with everything they had said and everything they hadn't. Lira finally broke the quiet. She shouldn't have to live like this, she whispered. Ryan turned. None of us should. Lira looked down at her daughter. When I was young, my elders told stories about a child born under the twin moons. A child whose voice could calm storms and hearts alike. I used to think it was just an old legend. Ryan walked closer, his boots crunching softly against the sand. It's not a legend anymore, he said. I've seen what she can do. Lira brushed a finger along her daughter's tiny hand. The voice of the stars, she murmured. That's what we called her kind. Ryan crouched beside her. The scientists called it something else, the resonant gene. They believed her DNA could connect with energy fields through sound waves. They wanted to create soldiers who could control emotion itself. Lira shuddered. They wanted to twist her gift into a weapon. Ryan nodded grimly. Yes, they said if they could amplify her song, they could end wars. By controlling minds. They didn't care how many lives it would destroy to get there. Lyra's voice trembled with anger. Your kind never learns. Always trying to control what you don't understand. Ryan didn't argue. He looked ashamed. That's why I left. When I realized what they planned to do, I couldn't be part of it. They called me a traitor. Lyra's eyes softened slightly. And yet you still came back for her. He smiled faintly. I had to. I owed her that much. The wind blew softly through the ruins, carrying the faint hum of the baby's breathing. Lira looked up at the distant sky, 2 faint moons still visible through the dawn haze. If the prophecy is true, she said, then her song could bring peace again. But it could also destroy everything, Ryan frowned. How? There's balance in all things, Lira said quietly. Light and dark, peace and war. The same song that can calm hearts can also drive them mad, if twisted. Her power must be guided carefully. Ryan looked down at the child, his expression full of awe and fear. Then she's more than either of our worlds can handle. Before Lira could answer, the baby stirred. Her small mouth opened and a soft hum filled the air, faint at first, then stronger. The sand around them rippled slightly as if touched by invisible waves. Ryan froze. It's happening again. Lira's eyes widened. No, this is different. The hum changed into a tune, a melody too perfect to be from any creature. The ruins around them began to glow, the carvings on the stones lighting up one by one. Holographic images formed in the air, stars, planets, and shapes of both humans and Vareen standing together beneath twin suns. Ryan's mouth fell open. What is this? Lira stared in wonder. A memory. No, a message. The images shifted, now showing destruction, fire, and war. Then again, the image of a small glowing child between the 2 races. Her song rebuilding what was lost. She's showing us the truth, Lira whispered. Our worlds were one once, we forgot. She's reminding us. Ryan stepped forward slowly, the light reflecting in his tired eyes. If people could see this, they'd understand. They'd know we're not enemies. Lira shook her head sadly. No, they'd see her as a weapon of control. Both sides would want her. The humans for power, the Vareen for prophecy. No one would see her as a child. The light faded. The ruins returned to silence. The baby yawned softly and fell asleep again, her small glow dimming to a faint silver. Ryan rubbed a hand over his face. Then we can't let anyone find her. Not yet, Lira nodded. She needs time to grow, to learn who she is. If she's meant to unite our worlds, it must be her choice and not ours. Ryan looked into her eyes. Then we protect her together. For a moment, neither spoke. The war, the hate, the fear, it all seemed far away. Here in the ruins, surrounded by silence and light, there was only truth. Then a sharp sound broke the calm. The distant roar of engines echoed across the desert. Lira's head snapped toward the horizon. Ryan lifted his binoculars. A dark shape was moving fast through the sky. A human gunship, its lights cutting through the clouds. They found us again, he said grimly. Lira stood, holding her daughter close. They will never stop. Ryan checked his weapon and glanced at her. Then we'll keep running, until she's ready to sing for the stars again. Lira met his gaze and nodded. The voice of the stars must live. The 2 fugitives began their journey once more, walking toward the endless desert as the ship's shadow grew behind them. The promise of another fight, and the fragile hope of peace carried in the arms of a child whose song could change the galaxy. The desert stretched endlessly beneath 2 pale suns. Wind swept across the dunes, carrying whispers of war and the faint scent of metal from the ruined cities far behind. Ryan and Lira walked for hours, each step heavy with exhaustion. The baby slept in Lira's arms, her faint glow flickering softly with each breath. They had escaped again, but only barely. The human gunship had searched the area for hours before disappearing beyond the horizon. Still, Ryan knew it was only a matter of time before they were found again. He stopped for a moment, shielding his eyes from the harsh light. We can't keep running like this, he said quietly. We need shelter somewhere safe. Lira nodded weakly. There's an old oasis not far from here. My people used it long ago before the war. She pointed toward the east where faint green shimmered in the distance like a mirage. We can rest there. They walked in silence. Each of them carried more than just their exhaustion. Ryan carried guilt and fear. Lira carried pain and a hope she was afraid to believe in. Between them lay the child who might change everything. As they neared the oasis, the air cooled slightly. The sound of water broke the quiet, a soft trickle echoing through the rocks. Palm-like trees grew from cracked soil, and in the center was a small pool that glowed faintly blue in the sunlight. Lira knelt beside the water and dipped her hands in, letting the coolness touch her skin. This place still lives, she whispered. Even after all the destruction? Ryan smiled faintly. Maybe that's a sign. Lira looked up. A sign? That life finds a way, he said simply. She studied him for a moment, seeing something in his eyes, the same kind of tired hope that lived in hers. Perhaps, she thought, this human wasn't just running from guilt. Maybe he was running toward redemption. She placed her baby in the shade and began to hum softly. The familiar tune, the ancient lullaby, filled the air again. But this time, something different happened. The water rippled, glowing brighter with every note. Ryan stepped closer. It's reacting to her voice again. Lira nodded slowly. This pool. It's sacred. It was said to carry the songs of our ancestors. Maybe it remembers. As she sang, the baby opened her eyes. They glowed brighter than ever. Two perfect silver lights reflecting in the water. Then, without warning, the baby began to hum back, matching her mother's tune. The sound was soft at first, almost fragile, but then it grew, pure and clear, carrying through the wind like a call from the heavens. The air shimmered with light. The dunes vibrated gently as if the planet itself was listening. Ryan froze in awe. Lira. Look. The sky above them shimmered with faint colors, blues, golds, and silvers blending like liquid light. The sound of the song carried far beyond what any human ear could reach. Then his communicator, broken since the crash, sparked to life. Static filled the air, followed by faint human voices. A signal detected. Unknown frequency. Emotional dampening effect spreading. What is this? Ryan's eyes widened. She's broadcasting, Lyra's voice trembled. Her song is reaching them. Across the desert, on distant ships and outposts, humans and Vareen soldiers alike stopped fighting. The moment the sound touched them, their anger faded. Their weapons lowered. Some began to cry without knowing why. The song was peace, raw, real, unstoppable. Ryan fell to his knees, overwhelmed by emotion. His chest felt warm, lighter than it had in years. The guilt that had haunted him began to fade, washed away by the sound. It's like she's healing us, he whispered. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. She's healing everything. The oasis glowed brighter and brighter until it was hard to tell where the water ended and the sky began. The baby continued to sing, her tiny voice now joined by faint echoes. Ancient voices, long gone but returning through her. And then, as suddenly as it began, the light faded. The world returned to quiet. The baby fell asleep again, smiling softly. Ryan exhaled, trembling. That was... Lira finished his sentence. The voice of the stars. For a moment they sat in silence, listening to the peaceful hum of the wind. But peace never lasted long in their world. A faint buzzing sound reached them. Engines. Ryan's heart sank. He stood quickly and looked to the west. In the distance, several ships were approaching. Not one side, but two. Human crafts and Vareen gliders, both drawn by the same signal. They're both coming, Ryan said grimly. Humans and Vareen. Lyra's face went pale. They all heard her song. Ryan looked at her, his voice steady but low. They'll want her now. Both sides. One will call her a miracle, the other a threat. Lira held her daughter tightly, her scales catching the sunlight. Then we don't run anymore, she said. We show them what she really is. Ryan turned toward the horizon where the ships were growing larger. That's suicide, Lira. Maybe, she said softly. But if she was born to unite our worlds, this is where it begins. He stared at her, then nodded. Then we faced them together. They stood side by side as the sky filled with the shadows of descending ships. The air trembled with tension. Soldiers would arrive soon, both human and Vareen, between the two armies. A mother and a soldier waited beside a sleeping child whose voice had touched the stars. The wind carried the last note of her song across the sand. Soft, pure, and full of promise. The horizon burned with light. Dozens of ships descended from the sky, human carriers and Vareen gliders, their engines rumbling across the desert. Dust swirled around Ryan and Lira as they stood beside the oasis, the small glowing child cradled in her mother's arms. For a long moment, no one spoke. The wind howled softly through the dunes, carrying the faint echo of the song that had brought them all here. Soldiers from both races began to land, forming lines on opposite sides of the oasis. Guns gleamed beneath the suns. Fear filled the air again, the old familiar kind. Lyra's heart pounded. She could feel her daughter's warmth against her chest, but also her power. A quiet energy waiting to awaken. She whispered, "We must protect her." "They won't understand." Ryan nodded grimly. "Then we make them understand." He stepped forward, walking into the open sand between both armies. His boots sank slightly with each step, his uniform torn and covered in dust. Dozens of eyes turned toward him. Human soldiers whispering his name, recognizing the traitor who had vanished. "Commander Ryan Hale," one of the human officers shouted through a speaker. "You're under arrest for desertion and treason against the Terran Corps. Surrender the alien child immediately." Ryan raised his voice, calm and steady. "She's not a weapon. She's not your experiment. She's a child, one who carries peace in her voice." Lira stood behind him, her silver scales catching the sunlight, the baby's glow pulsing softly in her arms. On the other side, Vareen warriors raised their blades, shouting that no human could speak of peace after the blood they had spilled. The tension thickened like smoke. One mistake, one shot, and it would all end in fire. Ryan looked from one army to the other. "Listen to me," he shouted. "You've both seen what her song can do. You felt it. For the first time in years, you laid down your weapons. Didn't you feel the calm? The light? That was her, not as a weapon, but as hope." The soldiers hesitated. Some lowered their guns slightly, uncertain. Others shook their heads, still bound by hate and fear. A human general stepped forward, his armor shining. "Hope doesn't win wars," he said coldly. "It ends them, by force. That child can end this forever. We'll raise her in our labs, use her song for control. Billions will obey." Lyra's voice cut through the noise, sharp as glass. "You will not touch her." She stepped beside Ryan, holding her daughter higher. She was born of love, not power. She carries both of our bloodlines in her melody. "If you take her, you'll destroy the one chance this galaxy has to heal," the Vareen commander hissed, his eyes narrowing. "And what makes you think humans deserve healing?" Lira looked back at Ryan, then faced them all. "Because even among monsters there are those who choose mercy." Ryan's chest tightened at her words. He knew she was speaking about him, the human who once helped destroy her world, now standing to defend it. The baby stirred, as if sensing the danger. Her glow brightened, spreading a silver-blue light over the sand. The air hummed gently, vibrating through the soldier's armor. Ryan turned to Lira. "She's reacting to us again." Lira nodded. "She knows there's fear. She wants to stop it." Then, without warning, the baby began to sing. It started as a soft hum, but quickly grew into something beyond sound. A vibration that touched hearts, not ears. The light expanded outward, washing over both armies. Guns slipped from hands. Soldiers fell to their knees, eyes filling with tears. Images filled their minds. Memories of loved ones lost, of children, of peace before the war. The song carried emotion too deep for words. Forgiveness. Ryan felt it too. The ache in his chest, the guilt, the anger, all of it dissolved into warmth. He looked at the human general, whose hard expression had melted into sorrow. The Vareen commander dropped his blade, tears rolling down his dark green cheeks. When the light finally faded, silence filled the air again. But it was a new kind of silence. The kind that came after a storm. Lira held her child close, whispering softly, "Rest now, my star." Ryan turned toward the soldiers. "You've all heard her voice. If this doesn't prove that we're not meant to fight, then nothing will." The general looked around at his soldiers, then at Ryan. Slowly, he lowered his weapon. One by one, others followed. The same happened on the Vareen side. The desert, once filled with hate, now felt lighter, alive. Lira looked at Ryan, her eyes soft but shining. "She did it. She ended the war without firing a single shot." Ryan smiled faintly. "No, you did. You kept singing even when no one listened." Lyra's eyes glistened. "And you? You returned hope to me when I had none." The two stood together in the center of the desert, surrounded by the armies that once wanted them dead. The baby slept peacefully in Lyra's arms, her glow fading to a calm silver heartbeat. The twin suns rose higher, their light touching the sand with warmth. Ryan looked at the horizon and whispered, "Maybe this time we'll get it right." Lira smiled softly. "Maybe we already have." As they walked away from the battlefield, the soldiers watched in silence. Some bowed their heads, others wept. The wind carried the faint echo of the baby's song across the dunes. a melody that spoke of forgiveness, unity, and the rebirth of two worlds. Long after they disappeared into the distance, stories would spread across galaxies, of a Vareen mother who sang to an empty cradle and a human who carried her child home, and how, together, they gave the universe back its voice.